a bit about her books? Do you want to tell us a bit about your books? Can you?
I glitched out for a minute then. Yeah, so I write gangland thrillers and I'm published by HarperCollins. So all my books are set in Liverpool, and I've got 4 out so far. So they are The Boss, Back in the Game, Head of the Firm, and Liverpool Loyalty is the most recent one. And my newest one, Traitor in the House, is due out on the 31st of July. So they're 5 books in a series, and the 6th one is due out later this year. And then I've just signed a 4-book contract to do another 4. So very exciting.
It is very exciting. How did you have you always been with HarperCollins?
Yeah, so they were my first publishing contract back in 2018. I signed my first contract. Yeah.
Did you always want to write like gangland crime?
No, when I started writing, I don't know if people know, I feel like I've told this story a lot of times, but to different people, obviously. So I started writing in 2016. My middle son, Finlay, died when he was 2 days old. And I started writing, I think it was the day after or 2 days after his funeral. I found this old laptop in a box in the conservatory that I was going to throw away because it had never worked very well. And I turned it on and it worked. It just kind of sprung to life, and the internet connected and everything. And I just had this thought in my head, I'm going to write a novel. So I wrote The Boss in, I think it was 45 days. And I just thought, it got me through a really difficult time. It was really cathartic. And then some friends of mine read it and they were like, this is a really good story. You should try and do something with it. And then I thought, wouldn't it be great to see Finlay's name, out there and for people to read his name? Because I thought initially on the dedication page I'd have for Finlay. So anyway, I started looking at agents. But when I first wrote it, I didn't really know what it was going to be. It was just about Grace and Nathan are the characters in The Boss. And it was just about their relationship. It was very toxic and abusive. And it was only when I eventually got my publishing contract and I spoke to, got advice from different people that I kind of thought, actually, this is a gangland novel. And I don't know why I didn't think that, because I've always loved Martina Cole and Kimberly Chambers and Jessie Keane. And I grew up reading Martina Cole. And so I don't know why I didn't kind of see it in that genre, but I didn't set out with the intention of writing in that genre. I think it just kind of happened. And then I did try and write something a little bit lighter. I tried to write a romance novel at one point and it just turned quite dark as well, and it was full of gangsters. So I think that's just where my head goes, I think. Dark.
Can you tell us a bit about Grace and Nathan? Because they're kind of an interesting...
They are, yeah. And
characters.
They are. So Grace, Grace is the character throughout all of the Bad Blood books up to now. So anyone who reads the books now will see a very different character. But in The Boss, she started off initially when she met Nathan, she was only 18. She was, she had no family. He was this really charming, good looking guy. I mean, we've all met them in our lives, haven't we? This real good looking bad boy, and he just swept her off her feet. And then he kind of just isolated her really, and he was a really abusive, toxic, influence. And he was a villain as well. He was this up and coming gangster. And so anyway, the story kind of starts where he's just coming out of prison after a very long stretch, and he thinks that she's the same woman that he left years earlier, but actually in his absence, she has kind of taken over his mantle really, and has become the queen of the Liverpool underworld really. And it's the book's really then about their relationship and how the struggles they have, and he wants her back, and she's obviously moved on, and I won't tell you how it all unfolds, but that's kind of... But he's a lot of people contact me and say, I hate Nathan, he's horrible. But actually I really, really have a soft spot for him, because I know I cut a lot of his backstory as well, but I know his backstory, and he's a very damaged individual himself, and he had, a very traumatic past, and the things that have happened to him, and they're alluded to in the book, but they're not really gone into in any detail. So I've got a real soft spot for him, but people tend to hate him.
It means you've done a good job of writing him as a villain, though.
It does.
So we've got Tony Millington has said hi, Caroline and Caz.
Hi, Tony.
So is Andrew, who's in Nottingham. He said hello. Sam has said hello, double Caz trouble.
Yes, the 2 Cazes.
Mm-hmm. But they stand for different things.
They do. So my name, my writer name came about. So I ended up choosing Finlay. Finlay is not my real surname because I wouldn't have called my child Finlay. But I used that as a tribute to Finlay because he was the reason why I started writing. And then I was going to be, my real name is Claire. And I was going to be Claire Finlay. And then when I went up to meet my editors at HarperCollins, they said to me, oh, Claire's a bit nice to be a gangland writer. So how do you feel about Caz? Or I think they said Kerry or someone else. And I chose Caz because I call my mum Caz sometimes. So that's why I went with Caz. So it kind of fits. And it's a little bit like Claire.
I like the idea that Caz is kind of a mean name.
Yeah.
I don't know what that says.
I know, I don't think it is a mean name, but I don't know. They just said Claire was too nice. So I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I quite like the idea of writing it under a completely different name as well. I really like that idea. So
Andrew got in contact with us before we went live. I'm just going to try and find our message that we got from him. He said that he was reading up about you and he's downloaded The Boss.
Oh, good.
He's really enjoying it. It's a fast-paced book and he can imagine the conversations between the characters. He'd love to see it adapted for TV.
So would I, Andrew. So would I.
And he's got an idea of who he'd like to play Grace. He thinks it should be Saran Jones.
Yeah, she would be a great Grace, actually.
And he also thinks she should win an award because your writing's superb.
Oh, thank you very much.
I know. Isn't this a nice message? And then he said, is there anything you can do to get The Boss adapted for TV?
If there was, Andrew, I would be doing it. But so many people say that because I really enjoy writing dialogue, and I did try and write The Boss as a bit of a screenplay. So yeah, I would absolutely love it to be adapted for TV, but yeah, I don't really know how you go about doing that. So if anybody's got any ideas, then please let me know, because I would absolutely love it to be on TV. That'd be amazing. And I've always had Tom Hardy in my head for Nathan, but you know.
Is that just because you like Tom Hardy?
Just because I like Tom Hardy. I tend to have him in my head quite a lot.
We had the Blonde Plotters on a while ago and they've got a thing about Tom Hardy as well, and I don't get it.
Really? Oh, I just think there's just something about him. But I would love, I mean, Stephen Graham would be amazing as Nathan, wouldn't he? Because he's got the perfect accent. He's just a great actor. But yeah, I'd love to see it on TV. Absolutely love it.
Are there audiobooks available for your novels?
Only for Liverpool Loyalty. So yeah, they brought the audiobook out for Liverpool Loyalty, but I don't know if that maybe didn't sell. If that sells okay, I think they're going to do the backlist, but for now it's just Liverpool Loyalty, and I don't know if my new one's in audiobook either.
Do they get people to read it with the right accent?
No. The person who reads Liverpool Loyalty, she's a great narrator, but she's made like the main character in Liverpool Loyalty, the main male character, a Brummie, which is a great accent. I love the Brummie accent, but it's not a Scouse accent, is it? So yeah, she doesn't read it in Liverpool in Scouse, but it was just great actually to hear my book being read by a narrator. So I was absolutely over the moon when they released it in audio. Yeah, but it does sound like it's set in Birmingham.
Tell us a little bit about Perfect Crime.
So Perfect Crime came about because I've been to a few festivals and thought I'd love to be on a panel, but again, I don't know how you get yourself on a panel and things like that. And then I went to Capital Crime in London. It was the first festival, so that must have been 2019. And I remember coming back on the train just being completely... So I'd done the whole weekend. I'd gone with my friend Mary, who's a writer, and I just come home just full of this buzz and energy about I really want to be on a panel at Capital Crime. And it was absolutely huge. Like the main hall, I think, held over 1,000. Just thinking if I was sitting on that stage, I'd feel like I'd made it. So when I came home, anyway, I did an event in Liverpool that runs every year called Smithdown Lit Fest. That's run by a guy called Ian Skillicorn. And just through chatting to him, we were saying, and there's another writer called Margaret Murphy from Liverpool. And I was talking to Ian, and we were just saying, isn't it a pity there's nothing in Liverpool or nothing up north that we could do? We should. There's so many writers and crime writers from Liverpool and from the surrounding areas. We were saying, it's such a shame that there isn't something. So we were like, let's do one. Let's put it together. And so we were just going out for a coffee, me, him and Margaret. And then we came away from this coffee with like the whole plan for Perfect Crime. And everything just seemed to fall into place. All of the authors that we approached said yes. You know, we've got Anne Cleeves and Mike Craven and just some really huge, amazing authors, as well as some real local Merseyside authors as well. And it all seemed to be going great. And then I also got an email from Capital Crime to ask me to be on a gangland panel. So in 2020, in the big hall for like 1,000 people. So I was just like, oh my, I've got Perfect Crime, I've got Capital Crime. And then COVID's happened. And obviously things got cancelled. So we still had Capital Crime. I think they're deferred till next June. But we still held Perfect Crime as an online digital festival last November. And we had the same authors. So we had Anne Cleeves, Ellie Griffiths, you know, Sophie Hannah, so many great names. And it was a real success. We sold out all our tickets, got lots of international attendees as well, which was great. And yeah, it was just really good. So we're hoping to do the live in face-to-face festival this year in Liverpool, and we're just making plans for that now. We've got our authors on board. It's just really waiting on the government and what they say and what the hotels are able to do. So that will be the 13th of November this year in Liverpool City Centre. So that's how it came about, really, just me wanting to be on a crime panel. So I was like, if I can't be on one, I'm going to make my own.
It's the best way, really.
Yeah.
We came up with ours because Harrogate got cancelled. So we're like, well, if there's no Harrogate, let's make our own.
Yeah, and it was really successful last year, wasn't it? Your festival. Yeah.
What are your favourite go-to interview questions then? Because you've hosted panels and things. What do you like? What are your standard sort of favourites? And I'll ask you one of ours.
Oh, I don't know. You know, I think I'm still quite new to interviewing on panels, so I don't know if I've got any go-to. I think I often ask, you know, the TV question, who would you like to play, you know, one of the characters if it was in a film or television. And I always like the one about kind of what's your inspiration for writing or what's your story. I always like to know what started people off writing, you know, whether they'd always wanted to do it. So that's always one of my favourites, I think. What's one of yours then? Your favourite go-tos?
Have you ever been asked any really crazy questions at an author interview?
I don't think I have. No. I can just see on the comments though, and it's from Tony saying, did I see the documentary on Liverpool Narcos? I did. It was fantastic. It was really, really good. Yeah.
Did it give you inspiration for a future story?
No, well, my day job anyway is kind of working with the actual people who are. So I'm a senior probation officer, so I get a lot of inspiration from lots of different places. So some of those people in the documentaries I'd kind of known in my other life or met in my other life, not new. But yeah, it was a really, really good documentary. But I remember thinking, oh, this is really, Sky have done this documentary. We should get the boss on the telly now that there's this thing about Liverpool and the drug scene. Yeah, it was good.
So my favourite interview question of all is, would you make a graphic novel of one of your books?
No, I don't think someone else would have to do the illustrations if I did. No, I've never been asked that before.
I'm basically a massive nerd, so I just ask everyone because I like graphic novels.
Yeah. I suppose it would work, wouldn't it? Because it's like the action and the violence and I think it would work, yeah, but I'd have to get a really good illustrator to do it. Like Batman style-y. Kapow. But yeah, graphic novels have come on a long way since I last read comics. I think.
Yeah. Andrew says if you see Margaret Murphy, give her his regards, as he met her in Nottingham at an event.
Oh. She asked you directions to the train station. I shall give you your regards. I'll be speaking to her next week, I think. I will.
Sam wants to know if it takes a toll on you when you write certain scenes.
It doesn't, no. It seems a bit weird, but when I'm writing, I kind of switch off from everything. And I just kind of go into a bit of a zone, and I write, and then my writing process is quite strange. My friend always says that I channel something from the universe, which I think is, who knows whether that's true. But no, I'm really good. I think maybe because of my day job and that being quite stressful and difficult, and the people that I work with can be very challenging emotionally and everything. So I think I'm quite good at switching off and compartmentalising things. And I've never written a chapter yet that I've struggled with, but there are certain things that I would never write because I just wouldn't want it in my head, I think.
So what is your writing process like, if you said it's quite strange?
I'm not sure I've got a process. I just kind of sit down and write. So yeah, it's I'm definitely not a plotter. I don't have so I have an overarching story in my head, and I'll have I want the character. I know the characters are, and I want them to get from A to B, but how they get there, I don't really know. And I will literally start writing, and then they just kind of do their own thing. And I don't write like I know my friend writes from chapter 1, chapter 2, right to the end. I write the chapters that I quite fancy writing, or the bits, and then I'll kind of piece them up, and then I'll write the middle bits to join them up, and I write really piecemeal. And I know a lot of people write like that, but yeah, I much prefer writing like that, because some days I just won't feel like writing that particular chapter and I'll want to write something else. So I write really fast as well. So I'm currently writing, because I have another pen name. So I've written, I think, 5 books this year. So I do, I just like to sit down. I have a couple of hours every night and I just write a lot. I feel I've got so much in my head, I can't get it out quick enough.
5 books in a year is impressive. So Sam's already asked further down, how do you manage such a demanding day job and the writing career? And if you're writing 5 books in a year, how are you getting that done?
I don't know. So I work full time, and as I said, my job's quite demanding, it's quite stressful. And so writing is like a real switch off for me. It's how I relax. I find it really therapeutic. If I'm having a tough day, or writing for a couple of hours really, helps me put things in perspective. It helps me switch off. So I think it's consistency really. There's rarely a day when I don't write. So the kids will go to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'll have tea with my husband, and then he enjoys watching, whatever rubbish he wants to watch on the telly, and I'll sit there next to him on the sofa and just write for 2 hours, or an hour and a half, and I'll average at least 2,000 words a day. So it's just consistency, really. And I write like my books don't require, when I send them to my editor, they don't ever need a lot of editing. So I think I kind of self-edit as I go as well. So when I do send my drafts off, they're usually pretty clean. So I think the way I'm managing it at the minute is because I love it so much, and it's such a passion that, if you're passionate about something, I'm thinking like people who love football or dancing or whatever it is, you find the time to do it, don't you? And you really just pour yourself into it. So I think it's because I'm still at that stage, I find it easy to do it. But I know that I can't continue in this way. I can't continue working full time and, producing 5 books. It is like an anomaly. It's because I've started a new pen name, and and I'm self-publishing, so I wanted to get quite a few books out there. So I know it can't be sustained, but I think it's sustainable right now because I love it so much, and I just love writing. I love the whole process. I love seeing the book, the end product, and I've always got a story in my head. So I think that's what's getting me through. Pure passion and adrenaline's getting me through so far.
And one of Sam's favourite go-to author chat questions. What was the last scene that you wrote? No spoilers.
So the last scene that I wrote wasn't for a Caz book. In fact, I was writing it just before we started this chat. So it was for another book that I'm writing, and it was about another gangster, but it wasn't a Caz Finlay book. And it was he was basically having an argument with his wife. Yeah, about an ex-partner of his. So that was the last scene that I wrote. The last scene that I wrote for a Caz book was about 2 weeks ago, and that was 2 new characters who I absolutely love. And it was a scene between those two, and I just, yeah, so people who know the books, who've read them, will know that they follow quite a specific set of characters, and those characters, I'm not saying whether they're still around or not, but it's been time to bring in some new characters as well, and I've got 2 in particular who I absolutely love. So my last scene as writing as Caz was a scene between these 2 characters that they just like bounce off each other, and they're really fun to write. Yeah.
Would you ever write spin-off stories, kind of like origin stories of some of your characters?
Yeah, well, I've got like the boss, for instance. I've got a whole origin story really for Nathan and Grace, because it started off with following their whole backstory from when they met right through, you know, their relationship until he went to prison, and then it started after he came out of prison. So I've got their whole backstory, and I think I'd quite like to write. I mean, I haven't got obviously a whole book. It's parts of it that are edited out, but I'd quite like to write their backstory. But then I don't know if people would be that interested in Nathan's backstory because everybody hates him so much.
I think people still like to know.
Yeah. Plus, I think there's like Grace, who's the main character, and there's the character who she's married to now. They wouldn't have been together back then, and I'm not sure if people would like, because people love her husband, Michael Carter, love his character. So I'm not sure whether they'd want to read about a book that that was about her and Nathan. I don't know though, but I would like to write. My mum's just shaking her head at me like, no, she loves Michael Carter.
No. Hi, Caz's mum.
So yeah, but I have ideas for different things, and yet spin-offs like involving different characters. So there's a detective that's been introduced in Liverpool Loyalty, and I think I like police procedurals, and they're quite different to write. But I think I'd quite like to write some with her as the main character. So yeah, I am interested in spin-offs and, you know, developing some more minor characters in a different way, because I like the idea of writing, you know, in the same world. So yeah, it's about different characters, but it's all set in the same world. So
like an extended universe.
Yeah.
Sam wants to know how you start each book. Do you get a single idea or a character that grows?
It's usually an idea. I started the boss with just one sentence. So it's just this one sentence, and the whole book kind of developed around that. So from the sentence, I got the characters, and then it was only as I was writing and that came to me. And then because the books are a series, it's kind of like, yeah, it's more now what I think would happen for these characters and what would be the next stage of their lives. But often I won't start at the first chapter of a book. I'll start at a point where something happens, or yeah. But sometimes I write, like in Traitor in the House, which is my book. I don't want to give any spoilers. Which is my book that's due out at the end of July. So on the first page, I think it is, or in the first chapter, I don't want to give anything away, but there's well, I won't give anything away to say that there's a body found, and this body has something. And when I was writing it, it just came out what this person had in their hand, or you know. And I just remember looking at it thinking, why have you typed that? Where's that come from? Because it was so random and bizarre. And actually, at the end of the book, by the time I'd finished, it ended up being, I don't want to give anything away. It ended up being quite key anyway. And I just thought, that's all fitted together. But I had no idea where this object came from, or why I chose it. I hope if anyone reads the book, they'll know what I'm going on about it anyway, but I can't say too much because I don't want to spoil it.
She's also said, did she hear correctly, 45 days for a book?
45 days for the boss, but I have written a book quicker than that.
What's the quickest?
This year I wrote, what's it? I'll have to get my little diary. I think it was 37 days I wrote a full book as my other pen name. Yeah. And I wrote Bad Blood 6 in about 45 days as well.
Wow. That's impressive. You've been asked if you have a lot to say regarding your covers.
No. None. I don't have any say. No. I do have some limited say, but no. Covers and titles are HarperCollins' domain. They and I will admit now that it's been changed, I really, really disliked the original cover for Traitor in the House. Just really disliked it. And originally it was pink. And I was like, it's really not a gangland. It looked a bit. It looked a bit to me like a romance novel because it had this big pink word traitor in, and then they changed it to orange and they changed it slightly. And I just always think they know what they're doing. You know, they're the experts, they're the specialists. So we just let it go. And then my new editor was like, actually, Caz, I think we should change this cover and make it a bit more gritty. And I was like, yes. And then the new cover, which has been revealed today, is fantastic, and I absolutely love it. So I do have some say. I mean, they would never put out a cover that I absolutely hated, because I just didn't like the other one. I didn't hate it, but it's there. That's part. I just think that's part of their role. That's part of their expertise and their job. So I'll kind of leave it in their hands. But now that I self-publish as well, I design my own covers, and I really, really love it, and I love having that whole control over the cover and what it's going to look like and the title, and everything's on me. And I absolutely love designing covers, so that might be something that I'll do in the future, kind of try and branch out doing that a little bit.
I see, and you said you wouldn't do your own graphic novel.
I know, but graphic novels like drawing illustrations, isn't it? These are like using images and fonts and different things. I've become addicted to fonts. I'm really sad. I love shopping for fonts. It like chills me out. Font shopping, yeah.
It's so confusing because people keep asking questions, but they're putting Caz in, and that's like what I go by.
Is it you or me?
Yeah, it's confusing me. It's like I work with another lady called Caroline, and our surnames start with the same letter as well, and it just really confuses. Oh. It's very confusing. Sam wants to know if you've ever written in a character just to kill them off.
No. Don't think so. No, the characters have always had... Oh, hang on, let me think. I don't think I have. They've always had a pit and then just happened to be killed for other reasons. But no, I've never created a character just to kill. She's just had a bad day.
Yeah, she's still boggled by how fast you write. Half of her comments that are coming in on here are just like, how do you do it?
She loves a good font as well, I can see. Love a good font, yes. My favourite one now, if you're into font, Sam, is Amalfi Coast. I'm loving Amalfi Coast.
She will be. This one says, my ambition yet to be realised is to go around a publishing house. So have you been around HarperCollins?
I have.
That's a good ambition. I'd love to do that as well.
It is, and it's great. I think I've been twice. Have I been 3 times? Might have been 3 times. I just invite myself there. I'm just like, I'm coming to London. I'm going to pop in, and then like, okay. But it's amazing. It's the news building. It's right opposite the Shard. It's all like security to get in. You go up these big fancy escalators, and it's amazing. And but the best thing is you get bags and bags of books, like, because they've got all the proofs of everything that HarperCollins published. So it's like, oh yeah, I like one of them. And I come home, and my husband, because I always go with my husband for a weekend to London, and he's like, we can't fit any more books in our suitcase. And I'm like, yeah, but they're books. They're books. No, but it is really good, and it's really good to see, It kind of looks like how I always imagined it would, if that makes sense. You know, with like everyone's desks and all the books everywhere, and yeah, it's a really. I have been, and I love going, and I'd love to as soon as the world is back to a bit more normality. I'd love to go again.
Can you sneak us with you?
I will do.
We'll go. We'll be really well behaved.
Be my PA. I'll be like, oh yes, just bring my PA. Yeah, we'll sort that out.
We can steal bags and bags of books.
Yeah. just bring some. The big Aldi massive bags. Bring a few of them. We'll get loads of books.
Sam says maybe the husband can stay behind and you can take his weight in books on holiday.
That would be, but he has to carry them, you see. This is only to London, so he has to carry them on the train and around the city. I couldn't be carrying bags of books on my own, so that's why he complains, because I make him carry them.
I'm calculating this and going, this might be worth it even if I had to carry them, because my husband is quite tall. So if I took his weight in books, that would be quite a good amount of books.
It would, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, remember when we used to, before the Kindles were invented, and before we had kids as well, and we used to go on beach holidays, and I would literally pack about 20 books, because I can read really fast as well as write fast. And again, Eric is my husband, and he'd be like, Claire, we can't fit nothing else in the case. And I'd be like, oh, but I need them. And then I'd always get through them, and then have to go to the hotel library and get more. But now that we've got Kindles, it's like thousands of books on something this big, isn't it?
See, I don't do beach holidays, but I have a Kindle and I still take, because I read really fast. So when I go on holiday, I pack my Kindle and then I don't trust that it will charge up. So I also take like a pack of books as well. Just can't be without them.
And you can't beat a paperback, can you? Especially when we don't have beach holidays anymore because we've got 2 young kids. But when we did, I used to just spend my holiday mostly reading on holiday. It was lovely.
Yeah, I can't do. I'm too sort of fidgety. Can't beach holidays. Can't sit still that long.
As long as I've got a book. Oh no, I could sit there all day. Not in the sun. I don't like it. I like sitting in the shade, but with a good book. Cocktail. Oh yeah. Remember in the good old days.
Tony's asking how many words on average are in your books, because he's admiring. Tony's an author as well, and he's admiring how you write so fast.
Well, I don't know if let me think. On average, I'm just thinking I've got a competition in another book club, you see, where the question is how many words is in my book. But anyway, I can give an average between 80 and 90,000, I'd say. Probably at an average 82 to 85. But I'll stick with that.
And Sam's off to look the font up, she said.
What, sorry?
Sam says she's off to look the font up and she's got a new addiction to Adobe Images that might start costing a small fortune.
Oh, well, Amalfi Coast you want, Sam. It's lovely, lovely font. If you're designing book covers anyway, it's beautiful font to use.
See, this sounds, I work at a school and the kids ask, when they do interviews, the kids ask questions. It's like part of the interview process. You get an interview with the kids. And our kids ask the best questions ever at interviews. Yeah. One of the classics recently has been, what's your favourite motorway?
Wow. I have got a favourite motorway though. I have got one. It's the M62, because when I was a probation officer and we used to go on prison visits all over the country, whenever you got on the M62, you knew you were almost home back to Liverpool, and then the M62 ends in Liverpool on Queen's Drive. So actually, I do have a favourite motorway.
But I feel like what's your favourite font could be one of theirs.
It could be what's your favourite font.
Yeah. I don't think they'd be down with that.
They'd all say Times New Roman.
They definitely wouldn't. Oh no, she said it was a real person. Have you ever written a real person in as a character?
No. I I genuinely haven't. I don't tend to dislike anybody in life that much that I'd want to write them in a book and kill them off. I have used real persons' names because I did a competition about 2 years ago, and I think 3 people won to have their names in Traitor in the House, and I did kill 2 of those characters, but they knew they were going to be killed off, so I didn't kill them off because I didn't like them. They won a competition to be killed in one of my books.
You see, I think this is fine. We're having this discussion about, and I'm going to be in Anne Coates's next book, because she was saying that she wouldn't write people in as like villains or like victims and stuff. You know, she used people's names. So I'm like, I'd like to be a villain in a book.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to do it in real life, are you? So
yeah,
why not live it in fiction?
Why not? I'd love to be in a book. So I wouldn't mind, but you can't be too careful, can you? So, and there's always, the thing is, you're always going to use a name that somebody actually does have, aren't you? So
yeah, exactly. I think if people agree to it, it's fine.
Yeah.
Got sidetracked. Sorry if I talk about names in books. I'm just checking out I've missed any questions. So one of our other favourites of the group's questions is, what are your most memorable moments as an author?
Oh, I've got. So my first one would be when I got my contract. I got an offer of a contract. So I started writing in August 2016. I finished the book by October, beginning of October, and then I spent, I think, about 12-18 months going to agents. I got an editorial report from the Jericho writers. Now I can't remember what they were called then. I got advice from different people, and I just kept getting rejection after rejection after rejection. And then how I came to, I was in so this is 2 memorable moments. So I was about to share, a few agents had said to me, "Oh, gangland crime is quite, it's 1990s, nobody reads it anymore. I'd suggest you do psychological thrillers. That's what people are reading now." So I was thinking, oh, that's it. I'm going to shelve it, and I'm going to start trying to write something else, because it was my first book, and most people don't get their first books published. And it was my friend, Mary Torgerson, who's a writer, and she phoned me and she was like, "Oh, Kimberly Chambers, she's a huge gangland writer, and she's in Liverpool Waterstones doing a talk. Do you want to come and see it?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that'll be great." So we went to Liverpool Waterstones, and we were sitting in the audience, and she had this huge poster behind her, like Queen of Gangland Crime, and she was sitting there talking about her book. And I remember sitting there thinking, I would love that to be me. I really would. And I just thought, that's my, like, if I've achieved that, I've achieved everything. To be sitting on that stage with my gangland book. So anyway, she was with her editor, Kim Young, who's one of the senior editors at HarperCollins. And at the end of the session, when everyone was chatting to Kim and asking for her autograph and stuff, I went and spoke to her editor, Kim. They're both called Kim. And I just said to her, "Have you got any advice for somebody trying to write gangland fiction? I've been told that it's a bit outdated." And she says now she doesn't know why she did it, but she was like, "Well, send me." I told her I was a probation officer, and I don't know if that kind of background swayed her a bit, but she said, "Send it to me and I'll have a look at it and see." And so I think that was the January 2018. And she liked it, and she put me in touch with an editor who's still my editor now, Emily. And in the August of that year, she emailed me to say, "We love the book," because I've made quite a lot of changes by this point. "We love the book and we want to offer you a 2-book contract." So that, and I was sitting in I'm in my mum's house now, because my kids wouldn't let me do this without climbing over my head. And I was sitting in my mum's living room next door, and it just came through, and I just remember like screeching and jumping off the couch. I couldn't believe it. It was like, oh, all my dreams have finally come true. And then the following August, when the paperback was launched, the paperback came out, I had my launch in Liverpool Waterstones. And so I was sitting in that very place where I'd watched Kimberly Chambers sit the year before, talking about my gangland book. So that was another absolutely amazing moment. Just like real pinch me. And then the other ones I got, I think when all my books got into the top 100 and they got their bestseller flags, that was just, again. So there's been so many. And my friend said to me when I was she's been a published writer for a few years, and when I was trying to get published, I was like, that's all I want. I just want a contract and then I'd be happy. And she was like, writers are never happy. You'll get your contract and then you'll want something else. And then you'll achieve that and then you'll want the next thing. And it's true, because now I'm like, I've achieved all that. I just want to keep going and do bigger and better things. So, but I've had some amazing, amazing moments. It just, sometimes I feel like it's just a bit of a dream that I'm a writer. Like sometimes I'll be sitting in work in a really boring meeting. Like there's nobody from work in this book group. And I'll just remember, like, I'm a writer. Oh yeah, I've got this whole other life outside of my day job. So yeah, that was a bit of a waffle, sorry.
No, it's great. Tony said he's writing a book now and needs new names for characters.
Well, feel free to use Caz Finlay.
You might realise another ambition in being a book.
Yeah, make me a villain, Tony.
I'm just realising there's quite a lot of probation officers turned authors. Maybe that could be a good panel for a...
Well, it is a panel. Mike and me are a panel at Perfect Crime. So, well, we had one actually at last year's Perfect Crime about how our probation careers shaped our writing. Yeah, and those two are lucky to have left probation, be doing something else. But I'm still there. I do love it actually. But yeah, there are a few. But me and Mike and Noel, we did that panel. It was good.
I can imagine. Sam said most meetings boring. It's fine.
Yes,
I'm agreeing. Apart from my line manager at work has got a thing where we have to have a meeting in the morning, and she gives us sweets. Occasionally, she has a tray of box of sweets hidden in a filing cabinet. So if it's a bad morning.
Well, my old team used to know when I was giving them bad news at a team meeting because I used to bring donuts. They'd be like, "Yeah, oh, something bad's we're going to get told something bad. She's brought cake."
Sam said, "Was it nerve-wracking being in front of an audience face to face?"
Oh, it was. That very first time I did it, I was an absolute bundle of nerves. But I was interviewed so it wasn't just me. I asked a couple of my friends to do it with me. So we made it a bit of a like writers from Merseyside night. So there was Mary Torgerson, who writes psychological thrillers, and Amanda Brooke, who writes psychological suspense. So we were on a panel. So there was the three of us, and we were being interviewed by Adam Hamdy, who's he's a brilliant writer. He writes like action, just really good books, and he's a brilliant interviewer as well. So he just like had some great questions. He just put me really at ease. So I was really super nervous, but I think once you start as well, you just kind of get into it. And I was nervous about this today. I haven't usually knit yet. Any kind of
you don't need to be. I sort of wondered this because I was thinking in the lockdown it'd be kind of nice to like do a literary sort of like a panel interview in real life that's not just online. But then I hate talking to groups of adults. Like I can't stand up and do like a talk to, you know, when you have to do them at work to people. I hate it. Can't. Loads of kids.
You're all right.
Yeah, but
you see, if you can talk to kids, I worked in a high school for a little while before I joined probation, and I find adults so much easier to work with than children or deal with than kids. I mean, kids are your biggest critics, aren't they? They're honest and invincible. They say what they think. Yeah. So
maybe you can get away with doing crazy things.
Maybe. But you can do that with adults, especially as a writer. You can do anything you want.
Yeah, that's true. So what kind of research do you have to do for a gangland? But because I don't imagine you have to be up on many police procedures and things.
No. So I don't really do any, to be honest. It's all in my head. But I did, for Traitor in the House, it's got a bit of a police procedural element to it. So I'm fortunate, I work with quite a few police officers. So I would just like, there was one in particular, I'd be in the middle of a chapter literally on a Sunday night and be like, Simon, what would happen if this happened? So it was great. And then I actually work, there's a police officer in my team So she's been great as well. So I ask her loads of stuff. So yeah, I know solicitors and psychologists, and so if I ever have got something I need to know, I think I'm lucky that I've got a group of people, like quite a lot of people who I can kind of ask. But yeah, most of it is just in my head.
What kind of stuff do you like to read?
Anything. I love crime. I'm really so I like romance. I like funny, romantic comedies. I'll read anything really. I don't read as much as I used to because I'm so busy writing. And because I like to pick up a book and read it ideally I'd love to just sit there for a few hours and read it. So I can't do that really anymore. So that kind of hampers my reading because it sounds strange, but I've got a bit of a short attention span. So for 2 to 3 hours, I can really focus and do something. And then if I'm reading a book, I'd like to read it, the whole thing, and move on. So if I put it down, I might then leave it for 2 weeks and go to something else. But yeah, to answer your original question, crime's probably my favourite, but I also love like dark romance, dark mafia romance. I really enjoy. Yeah, anything really. I like the odd autobiography, especially if it's like a funny one.
What have you read most recently that you've really enjoyed?
They've all been. I've been reading a lot of dark romance for research purposes, so because that's what I write as my other name. So I'm gonna have to look at my Kindle. I don't know. Time. I've been writing so much I haven't. Let's see. Where are we?
So I'm reading a book called Flood by Stephen Baxter.
Oh,
at the moment, that's sort of sci-fi, but not really because it's set in 2016 or it begins in 2016. But it's quite good.
One of the I can't remember the last one I read, which is terrible, but one of the best ones I read recently, which just reminds me saying sci-fi, was Defender it's been out for a few years now, but by G.X. Todd. And it's like set kind of post-apocalyptic world. Reminded me a little bit of like The Walking Dead type book. So that was really good. And that was a bit different because it's like sci-fi post-apocalypse. And and I read it. Oh yeah, it was Aftershock by Adam Hamdy as well. That I read that. Oh no, is that the third one? There's Pendulum, Aftershock. What was the third one? Or was that the third one? The last one was the trilogy anyway. It was really good action-packed trilogy. I loved them.
The only thing I've read by Adam was his graphic novels.
I didn't know he wrote graphic novels.
He wrote some and I won them in a competition that his wife ran in our group.
Oh wow.
Because she wrote one of Sam's favourite books last year.
Remember Me?
Sam absolutely raved about it and she hunted her down and made her do an author chat with us because she loves the book so much. And she gave away some books and I think I asked her my graphic novel question.
Yeah.
Told her it was one of my favourites and she sent me Adam's graphic novels as well.
Oh, fantastic. I didn't know he wrote graphic novels. His novels are really good. Anyway. So
the graphic novels were really good as well.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed them. Tony says, does a real life crime around Merseyside give you ideas for your books?
No, not really. I try and purposely try and stay away from anything that would, because of my job, I wouldn't want anybody to think that they recognise themselves or somebody else in it. So I do try and kind of make them, I would never ever use anything that I heard around Merseyside for that reason. So because of my job and because of people thinking I might have, they might recognise themselves or somebody else.
Would you set books outside of Merseyside? Have you always lived in Merseyside?
Yeah, always. So I would write. Yeah, I've written books based in America and London. As my other pen name, and I would do. It's just that for the Gangland stuff, there was nothing set in Liverpool. I don't think there's ever been any gangland fiction written in Liverpool before. Certainly not that I was aware of. There's a lot of crime fiction written in Liverpool, but not a lot of gangland. And considering, you know, we're such a big city and there is a lot of gang crime, I just thought, why not write about Liverpool where nobody else has written about it and where I know. So yeah, I would write about other areas, but I do enjoy writing about Liverpool, so I'll stick to that for now, I think.
Simon's laughing at me and saying she didn't make Amy do the chat, but she was a bit much, probably. She did make her do the chat.
Oh, Amy's lovely. I know Amy. She's really nice. She would have loved doing an author chat. I'm sure she was more than happy to be contacted.
She was great. Yeah, we genuinely haven't, we sort of do tend to get nice responses from most people we approach.
Yeah. Well, I think most authors, why wouldn't you want to do an author chat? And I think most authors like talking about their books, about, you know, talking to readers and talking about themselves, probably. We've all got fragile egos. I'm really kidding.
So what's next for you? Would you write, so apart from your dark romance, because that is also a bit gangstery, would you ever write anything that wasn't gangland themed?
Yeah, so I'm writing, I've got a contemporary romance, which isn't gangland themed in any way, due out later this year. And also I've got so many ideas. I've got a psychological thriller in my head that's been there for a while that I'd love to write, but currently, because I'm contracted to write gangland, I just haven't got the space to do that. But yeah, I'd love to write all different things. I'd like to write a romantic comedy. Yeah, I'd love to write everything and anything, really. So yeah, but that's the thing. It's sometimes whether people would kind of starting again, and I did notice that by starting a new pen name in the romance genre, which is very different, obviously, from the crime genre. Starting again from scratch was like quite exhausting, thinking like starting your whole social media up again, and as someone completely new who nobody knows. And I kind of think I've done that twice now. I wouldn't want to do it again. And I wondered if there's like psychological thriller, for instance, that might appeal to some of the gangland writers because it's still crime fiction. And I've obviously got, you know, I'm involved in a lot of the crime book clubs and perfect crime and things like that. So something that's not too dissimilar to gangland probably would be my next avenue.
Yeah, I think people would read stuff, like follow you across to your other genres as well. I think a lot of people read. I might just be sort of imagining it because I read multi-genres, but I think a lot of people do read.
Yeah. I think it's sometimes that people expect something from you, isn't it? Because they've read your books in, like, I'm trying to think, if Martina Cole wrote a romantic comedy, as much as I love her Martina Cole books, I don't know if I'd want to read her romantic comedy because I love it, her gangland book so much. Do you know what I mean?
You feel though that you just like the author's writing style.
Yeah.
So if the author that you liked wrote something else, like, I would read it because I know that I like their style, so I'm sort of in good hands.
Yeah. And I think some people do think like that, but I think there's also some people who kind of like what they like, don't they? But yeah, I would like to diversify and try different things and hope that at least some people, and there's been some of my Caz readers who follow me as Sadie is my other pen name, and I've read a few of my books there. Not many, but there's some that are kind of a bit of a crossover, and that's been good.
What do your friends and loved ones think of your writing?
They're really supportive. Like my family, like my mum and dad, my husband's like super supportive of everything I do, particularly in my crime writing. But my other pen name, because it is kind of dark romance and it's a little bit steamy, some of my friends just don't acknowledge that I write that, which is a bit, so I don't broach it with them. But it's like, it's a lot more supportive of my crime writing. But yeah, generally people have been really supportive. And whenever I tell someone, like, oh, I'm a writer, they'll always say, oh, when have you had anything published? And I'm like, yeah. It's kind of, yeah. I kind of identify myself as a probation officer first. I think I started from my main job, and then my writing's just, it's always because it was a hobby and now it's become But then actually, I think it's as much as my job now as my day job is. Yeah, but people have been really, in general, really, really supportive, and yeah. But the thing is, sorry, Caz,
No, go on.
misconception people have is, oh, you'll be retiring soon, you'll have a big house in the country, and I'm like, you know how much writers earn? People think you write a book, and oh, you're the next J.K. Rowling. I don't know how many people have said that. You'll be the next J.K. Rowling. I know there's one J.K. Rowling, and she is J.K. Rowling. So, sorry.
That's all right. Sam wants to know if you've ever been sent a photo of somebody with your book.
Yeah, I have a couple of times. It's really, really lovely to have that. Or even when people just tag you into nice reviews or comments, it's really nice to be. I think before I was a writer, I would never have contacted a writer to say, I loved your book, even though there's so many books that I've loved and enjoyed. And now I think, why didn't I do that? Because it's such a lovely thing to do. I mean, I don't like getting tagged. I don't mind negative reviews, and I accept that they're part of the job. I don't particularly like being tagged in them. But nice reviews or constructive ones, I love being contacted. But I think I've had just a couple of photographs where people have sent me where they've got my book. So that's nice.
That's one of the things I love about doing this. It's like my second job. Because you get to talk to so many authors whose books you love.
Yeah.
And you genuinely get a bit giddy about it sometimes.
Yeah. Well, authors are like I've seen this on a thing, authors are my rock stars, but they are. And I think when I went to Capital Crime and the authors that were there was Martina Cole, who's a huge, like a hero of mine. There was Mark Billinger, just so many authors. Peter James, Stella Remington, who used to like head up MI5, MI6, which one? And I was just like wandering around in this daze of all these amazing authors that it was in complete awe of. And then I was kind of sitting there thinking, when I got the invite to go to Capital Crime, even though it never happened, I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be sitting there with those people. I've made it.
That's brilliant. It's so good, isn't it? Like, I have a signed shelf, like, of Pride of Place in my collection of, like, novels.
Yeah.
Some of my favourite authors.
Yeah. It's good, isn't it? And I think they're usually really so approachable, and like I said, just love getting. Because who wouldn't love someone coming up and saying, "Oh, I really love your work. I love the book that you wrote," or who wouldn't love that? So I just wish I'd done it more before I knew. And reviews, like I never used to write reviews for books, and now I'm like, if I read a good book, I'm reviewing it, because they're just so important for authors. But yeah, I don't. Until I was in this world, I didn't really understand the importance of them.
I try to write reviews. I think this is Andrew, who said as soon as events start at Waterstones in Nottingham and you're on the list, he'll come down to see you.
Oh, thank you very much. That would be amazing.
Got a new fan there.
Yes. Well, I hope you enjoy The Boss, Andrew. The end of it. The end's the best bit. I'll say that. It is.
You can say what the best bit is.
I can the end. It's good. When I wrote the end of The Boss, Sam before was asking me if a scene had affected me. It didn't affect me in that, but when I wrote the end of it, my heart was racing, and it affected me in a good way. Like I felt everything that the character was going through, but it didn't like impact me in terms of. But it really, I just felt. So I think if you come to the scene, Andrew, I hope you'll know which one. But it was a really good scene to write.
We've got 2 minutes left, but I want to finish off with this question from Tony because it's really good. He says, do you get imposter syndrome when being around other authors?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. All the time. And definitely. And I know loads of writers who get that. It's kind of like, I'm not a real writer until I've done this. And it was always, I'm not a real writer until I've got a contract. And then it'd be, I'm not a real writer until I've sold this many books. And I think, you always see and compare yourself to other people who are doing things better or bigger. And just that, I have this fear that one day someone's going to read it and go, actually, this is a load of crap. Who published this book? But so far, I've had great, amazing reviews and a really loyal readership, and I'm just really grateful for everybody who reads reviews, because you've literally made my dreams come true, and that's the absolute truth.
Such a nice response.
Nice.
What a good answer. And our time's up. So finish us off with a reminder about yourself and your books.
So, Bad Blood series, The Boss, Back in the Game, Head of the Firm, and Liverpool Loyalty are out now. I should have brought some with me, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
And I know. And Traitor in the House is book 5, and that's out in July, end of July, and that one can be read as a standalone as well. So you could start with book 5 if you wanted to. Yeah. And book 6. Sorry. Book 6 later in the year as well.
Sam and Tony have both said thanks for the interview.
Oh, thank you all. It's been amazing. I've really loved it.
It's been so much of a pleasure. And you can catch Caz again in our August Bank Holiday Festival.
Yes, with Edie and Gillian.
Yeah, heard it here first, because I've not revealed the lineup yet.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. I said it. We've only not revealed. We know the lineup. We've only not revealed it because I haven't given the names to tech support to make the poster. So it's fine. Tech support, by the way, it's an exclusive. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks very much, Caz, and thanks everybody for your questions and for your time. It's been absolutely lovely.